FISA reform, the budget, 2028 midterms. Majority Whip Tom Emmer joins us, as well as Florida man Dave Rubin. He's got it all. We got a lot to break down. Welcome to the Sean Spicer Show. Let's get into it. All right, my friends, we have made it through the work week, and at least where I am, it looks like a pretty nice weekend. What a show we have for you. Two big guests on a Friday. Majority Whip Tom Emmer. He is the man with the plan. He's got to get the votes through the House. The number 3 guy there, he is going to give us the whole breakdown of what we need to know about FISA reform, getting the budget passed, the 28 midterms. And then when he's done, Dave Rubin joins us. He's going to give us all the latest on what's going on in the media. Plus, he's been doing this Florida man tour. I want to get his take on all that. Before we get going, I mentioned this at the end of the show. John Bolton reaches a plea deal yesterday over his handling of classified information. Check out this. Take a look.
You know, Republicans used to believe that not prosecuting criminals led to more crime. The answer here is take the politics out of the decision, and in this case, proceed with the prosecution and do the same for anybody else who does anything even remotely like it. Just read the indictment and ask yourself, if the government can prove what they allege here, shouldn't this man go to jail? The simple fact he had the documents for any reason or no reason.
Okay, that's John Bolton in June of 2023 about Donald Trump, who, by the way, the law says the president can do anything he wants and declassify anything. But now it'll be interesting if John Bolton, who just reached a plea deal, thinks that he himself should go to jail for what he said the president should be doing that he just admitted to doing. Very interesting on that front, huh? Oh, it is sometimes the video just... It comes back and it bites you, doesn't it? Anyway, I talked yesterday about this Biden book tour and what a disaster it's been. If you saw at the end of the panel, I said Joe Biden's had a horrible, horrible week because Jill Biden injected something into the dialogue that just wasn't there. No one was at. She literally said, I thought he's having a stroke. I got to be honest. I said this on the panel show. I said it a couple weeks ago, whatever, beginning of the week. How stupid. No one, all she had to say was, I was worried about Joe. We would never be talking about this. Never. And now, here's the kicker. Not a single Biden aide is coming to Joe Biden's defense. Not one. They're all out there saying, you gaslit us. You lied to us. You told us we should be speaking out about how fit Joe Biden was. And then you, Jill Biden, when you want to publish a book and make money, throw us all under the bus? I mean, these Biden aides, one after another, are coming out. They're pissed. And I get it. If you were told what an idiot you were for even possibly thinking that he wasn't fit for office, and now she comes out and throws you under the bus to make a buck on a book, I'd be pissed too. It is unbelievable. I want to play you. This is CNN's Harry Enton on the message that he says so many Americans have for the Bidens. Take a look.
American people have one message for the Bidens. That is, go away. Go away. I mean, just look at this. Look at Biden's net favorable rating. In January of 2025, it was minus 22 points. Has it gone any better? No, not really. He's still way underwater here at minus 19 points. He's 28 points underwater with independents. Joe Biden ended his term as president, is quite unpopular, and he remains quite unpopular. He is an anchor to the Democratic Party and potentially their fortunes in the 2026 midterm election.
Now, here's the kicker. When you leave office, generally you get more popular. You don't have to deal with the day-to-day issues that you dealt with as president. He's still highly unpopular because he's reminding people all the time. Yeah. I was completely not there. I wasn't running the country. If you're a Democrat, you're pissed because they think that if he had stepped aside earlier, that they would have stopped Donald Trump. I don't think that, but it's true. I mean, they're all pissed. And he's just reminding people why you hate him. And oh, by the way, he's still got his own book to come out in September. He's going to remind them over and over. So first, Hunter Biden's out there saying and doing crazy stuff, including going on Candace Owens. Then Jill Biden's got a book that throws him under the bus. And you heard yesterday Amber Duke on the show saying there's actually more stuff in this book that we're not hearing because of that revelation. Now we've got Joe Biden saying, oh, yeah, by the way, think about September, 2 months before an election, right when early vote starts, I'm going to come out and surprise, I'm back. Right when they don't want him to come out anymore. He's going to remind them, oh, yeah, don't vote for Democrats. Thank you, Joe Biden. I couldn't have picked a better timing for this book. Right when voters are making a key decision, he does that. Anyway, before I bring in Tom Emmer, the majority whip, I got to tell you, we talked a lot about this Scott Pelley fallout from 60 Minutes. And it was almost like a match made in heaven. You think to yourself, who are the two people that I don't want to comment on this but can't resist? Yep, you guessed it. Jim Acosta and Don Lemon. They're, as you can imagine, both, now that Pelley's going to join their club of fired people. And oh, by the way, just as a side note, I mentioned yesterday, Paramount obviously bought CBS and is in the process of gaining the acquisition of CNN. They would have been fired if they hadn't already been. But sure enough, they want to welcome them to the club. They're really upset about Scott Pelley. Take a listen.
Don was saying, make no mistake, they don't care about the ratings. They don't care about making money. This is an ideological and partisan political project on the part of the Ellisons, the Trump-friendly Ellisons who now control Paramount, who, by the way, are trying to take control of WBD and CNN and turn it into this giant media conglomerate that will essentially act like a state media organization in support of Donald Trump.
Jim is right. In this moment, this is a very dangerous moment. We should all be a Scott Pelley. Scott Pelley should be an example to us. We should all support him. His story is our story. If we lose the First Amendment, the freedom of the press, it is over. This whole experiment that we have towards a more perfect union is over.
Now, here's the kicker. First of all, it's just amazing that they're all now over there with Nicole Wallace on MS Now, whining like a little bunch of babies. The one thing you never hear, though, in any of this is any examples. Do you? Think about this. The CBS Evening News, I noted this like before, I think. Tony Dopical is not exactly a Donald Trump acolyte. He's a far left guy. And he praised Scott Pelley the other night on air. I'm not sure how he didn't get fired. But that's who Barry Weiss put in. Not some right-wing figure, a left-wing figure. Nora O'Donnell is still there. Margaret Brennan is still there. Think about it. What example of news reporting do they have about bending to Trump or to anyone on the right? None. They're firing far left people that are speaking out that anyone, frankly, in an employment situation would agree have lost their way. But they can't cite a single example, not one, where the news tilted towards Trump. In fact, when Trump sat down with Leslie Stahl at CBS, or whoever it was, he was highly critical of CBS. It's just amazing. Just think about it for a second. News-wise, they haven't changed a bit. Yes, they've taken out some of the left-wingers. That's all they can cite, though. Not one single example. Hate to jump in the middle of this conversation, but you guys know as it gets warmer, you know what it's like sometimes in the middle of the night. You wake up as June, July, August creeps up and you're hot and sweaty. I hate to make that image stick in your mind, but you know what I'm talking about. You get all hot in the middle of the night rolling around. That's the beautiful thing about my new Boll and Branch sheets. They are so breathable that you don't have that glued in your leg kind of sheet experience anymore. You crank the AC. That's not the problem. It's your sheets. I love switching over to Boll and Branch sheets. I get so many rave reviews when I give these things as gifts. They are breathable. It's the organic cotton that is woven for airflow. It's not just the softness. And here's the cool thing. Every time I put them in the wash, they get even better, more breathable, softer. It is unbelievable. They're light and they're crisp. Most importantly, as I said, they're breathable. So as the summer heats up, you will not get that way in bed. Stay cooler with a set of Boll and Branch sheets. I've got a deal for you, though. You've got to follow this exactly. Go to Boll and Branch, BOLLAND, branch.com/Spicer, and use code Spicer to unlock 15%. Some exclusions do apply, but go to bollandbranch.com/Spicer. Enter it exactly like that to get 15% off. Use code Spicer. Now back to the show. What will it take to keep our majority? For that, I want to bring in what else is on the agenda. I want to bring in the majority whip, the congressman from Minnesota, the former chairman of the NRCC, the National Republican Congressional Committee, Tom Emmer of Minnesota, and then Dave Rubin. But first, Congressman Tom Emmer. Congressman Emmer, always good to see you. How things going up there on the Hill?
Oh, Sean, it swimmingly. Everybody's getting along. Everybody's happy to be here. You know, it's primary season. Some people are winning. Some people are losing. There's a lot of love in the air here in.
All right. Well, let me then ask you. There's a big question about what's going on in this Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA. What is that? Obviously, this is super important to our nation, our national security. What are the likelihood of this thing? I know it's like expires on June 12th. What are the prospects for this?
Well, it has to get done, Sean. One thing I want to make clear is it's Section 702 of of what is known as FISA, because Section 701 is permanently in law. All right, and people get concerned about our government abusing its authority, which there's evidence that certain government agencies have abused this law. Right. What we did during the last Congress, Sean, is I think we made more than 50 reforms to the FISA program that protect Americans and their civil liberties. And President Trump and the administration have made it clear that FISA can't go dark. So two things. One, we did the reforms in the last Congress. Certainly we could do more going forward. But the idea that FISA remains unchanged from when it was being used, for instance, to spy on the Trump campaign back in 2016. Somebody was actually prosecuted for that and I believe served time for misrepresenting themselves before the FISA court. We did those reforms last Congress, and now what the president is saying right now, they're working. So we need this thing reauthorized, get it done. Democrats, sadly, are threatening our national security by saying they want to vote no because of the president's new appointment announcement of Bill Pulte as his NSA person. But people got to see through that. This is just Democrats who are looking for excuses to vote no on anything and everything. They don't care about American safety and security because their hatred of our president is so strong. They don't want to do anything that would support the president's leadership, including passing this law, reaffirming it so that our military forces, Sean, you know, they use this foreign intelligence data every day. This is how they get information on the challenges, with the Iranians, for instance. This is how they know where the nuclear material is and where they're building weapons and all the rest of it. So it needs to get done, especially when you got the World Cup coming. You've got some of these really big events that are going to take place in this country. We can't mess around with that, Sean. So yeah, I think it'll get done.
And right, but you're right. Democrats don't want to be helpful. Do you think you can get it done just with Republican votes, or will you need some of the Democrats?
No, we'll get it done with Republicans.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
think you'll get some Democrats because I do think there are some Democrats that are willing to put the country ahead of their hatred of President Trump, their Trump derangement syndrome. But no, we don't count their votes. We got to get it passed with Republicans. And if we get some Democrats, good for them.
Hate to interrupt the program, but I got to tell you, most of us are doing things these days to get ourselves healthier, taking supplements, making changes in our diet. Here's a question for you. Why aren't we doing it for man's best friend, for our own dog? I did. I take a bunch of supplements, and I found out about rough greens, and I decided, hey, I love what Dr. Dennis Black, he's a naturopathic doctor, did to create supplements for dogs, and that's what rough greens is. You keep your dog's existing food and add a scoop of rough greens to the food once a day. I use it in the evening. The dog loves it, laps it up, and you can almost see the results immediately in their coat and their activity. It helps with their longevity, but it is giving them all of the essential vitamins, minerals, probiotics, digestive enzymes, and omega oils that dogs need. So do something for your dog that you're probably doing for yourself. The beautiful thing, as I said, is that all you're doing is adding a scoop to their already existing food. You don't need to just change it. It is unbelievable. Don't change their foods, just add Rough Greens. They're offering a free Jumpstart bag to all of my listeners. All you need to do is cover the shipping. So go to roughgreens.com, use promo code SPICER. That's rough, R-U-F-F, greens.com, promo code SPICER. Don't change their foods, just add Rough Greens. Now back to the show. The other big thing we got to get done is the government funding. We've got this reconciliation bill hanging out there. I still think the Senate screwed everybody by allowing this thing to happen where everything but CBP and ICE got funded. What is the status of getting the rest of the government funding? And then, by the way, Congressman, I mean, not that I'm telling you anything you don't know, but we already need to, we've got another deadline of next year's funding kind of on the horizon of October 1st. So we're still trying to fund last year, and we're already, give us a sense of where we are in the funding of government.
Yeah, first off, it's a reconciliation bill, but we're calling it a funding bill because there was a bipartisan, bicameral deal to fund Homeland Security. Much like FISA, all of a sudden at the last minute, they came up with an excuse. They didn't like the surge that was going on in Minneapolis, whatever it was. Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats pulled their support just out of the blue. And in the middle of the night, which I'm not a fan of this, there were 6 people, I believe, on the floor at 4 a.m. when they passed by unanimous consent the Homeland Security funding bill that we had sent over, taking 2 pieces out, taking out the Customs and Border Patrol funding and taking out the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the ICE funding that was in that bill, which, by the way, is for day-to-day operations, Sean. It's important. A lot of it goes to civilian employees of Homeland Security as opposed to officers. That's who they want to impact. Now, it's terrible precedent because if you can just pull out a piece of one of these appropriations bills all of a sudden that you don't like, okay, what's to stop Republicans for pulling the SNAP assistance benefits out of the ag bill next time? What's to stop somebody but pulling out mass transit out of a surface transportation bill? And the list goes on and on. Terrible precedent.
I agree with you 100%. I think this was what the Senate did is it created the worst precedent going forward that you can cherry pick what you don't want to fund. And I actually think it's just bad for the system.
Yeah, Mike Johnson took the right approach, saying we weren't going to do it. He got a lot of pressure, and the White House needs to get this done. So fine. We ended up using reconciliation, which we're able to do, which will allow us to pass it with only Republican votes. You ask me where it is. It's been sent over to the Senate. My understanding is their vote-a-rama is ongoing right now. It just started today. We are prepared, despite all the challenges of keeping our members here and all the issues that people are dealing with in their lives. We're prepared to vote on it tomorrow morning.
Okay.
The goal is we get it, we vote on it tomorrow morning and pass it.
Okay. What is left, right? We're in an election year. We talked about 702. We just talked about the rest of the funding. What is it that you see on the legislative agenda between now and say Election Day that Republicans need to get done or not?
The surface transportation bill that was just marked up in committee, I believe, needs to get off the floor. We got the farm bill done finally. Now this one needs to get done as well. Aside from that, Sean, you can do all kinds of policy things and have votes, etc. But the thing that needs to get done are those appropriations bills. Our appropriations committee that is run by Tom Cole from Oklahoma has already pumped out 3 or 4 of the 12 bills. They're busy marking up the other ones right now. They got to get that done before the end of July. I mean, you got to have those ready to go. Even if you get to the end of September, that deadline that you're talking about, it will be very unlikely, I'll predict right now, that we're going to be able to pass those individual bills before October 1st. Because nobody knows, I think I know, but Democrats actually think they might be able to flip the House. So they are going to obstruct anything and everything so that they, in their wild belief that they're going to somehow have a say in this matter, they think that they'll just plug it up until we come back after the election, and then they'll be the ones that are on the verge of taking over. I don't think that's going to happen, but that'll be the attitude that they'll have. So appropriations bill, surface transportation, there might be one or two other things. I think the Clarity Act needs to get done. This is the other half of the digital assets legislation. We did a stablecoin bill last year called the Genius Act. The Clarity Act is the market structure bill. It tells people who their regulator is going to be, whether you're cash, you're going to be treated as cash, you're going to be treated as a commodity or a security. It's really important. As our chairman says, having the stablecoin bill is like having a cell phone invented without the cell towers. You gotta create the towers so people can actually use the tool. But aside from that, I just don't see a whole lot that is going to happen unless you just want to have votes that you know are going to go over to the Senate, and they're just not going to go anywhere.
Hate to jump in the middle of this discussion, but I got to share a warning from Bobby Kennedy, the HHS secretary. He says it is regulatory malpractice that we are not screening for Alzheimer's. And he's absolutely right. 4 out of 5 voters say that they are more likely to support a candidate who prioritizes better access to Alzheimer's detection, diagnosis, and treatment. But the health care that we get right now is now opting for late-stage crisis care over early intervention that could slow the disease. It is so ridiculous. Right now, more than 7 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's, and that number could double by 2060. Families are tired of hearing about this. Medicare and Medicaid can't afford it. Waiting to intervene is setting us up for a massive, massive healthcare crisis. Early detection changes everything. We have the tools like simple blood tests that can identify the risk years before the symptoms fully hit, giving patients time to plan and interventions that will allow them to stay independent. 85% of Republicans support expanded Medicare coverage for tests and treatments. The tools are here now. The policymakers just need to implement them. Join the fight at marketinstitute.org. That's marketinstitute.org. Now back to the discussion. All right, the last thing I want to ask you is this. Prior to assuming your job as the majority whip, you were the chairman, a 2-term successful chairman, I might add, of the National Republican Congressional Committee, the NRCC. So put your old hat back on for a second, and I want to ask you this. One, when members go home, your members go home to campaign, what is the message that you want them to tell voters that they've done and that they will do? And then the last piece of that question is, do you feel confident that you will retain the majority?
Well, I'll go in reverse order. The answer to the last one is yes. I'm very confident. A couple of things have to happen. Right now, there's a lot of great news in the economy. But you know what? People's perception is not that the economy is doing as well as it is, because the Democrats and left-wing media have pulled this baloney word out of the air called affordability, Sean. Look, every election is about the economy. It's always about the economy, and it will be about the economy again. Affordability is just another word for the economy. We need the perception that is right now not where it needs to be, and the reality of the growing economy to be intersecting come the end of the summer. If that happens, when that happens, which I believe it will, I mean, you even hear Jay Powell, who's no friend of President Trump, talking about the billions of dollars that are being invested in this country because of the big, beautiful bill that was passed and signed into law a year ago. I believe that is the momentum that will hit come the end of the summer, beginning of September. President Trump, the president of peace, takes care of this Iranian situation, gets some stability. And look, the map is better than we've ever had. I would have guaranteed you 5 seats, winning 5 seats, Maine 2, Missouri 5, which is now a Trump plus 18, and 3 seats in Texas. I would have guaranteed you those before we affirmed finally in this country that we don't draw districts based on a color of someone's skin or based on anything else. We draw them based on common sense. And in this case, now you're going to get a seat in Tennessee. You're going to get a seat in Alabama. You're going to get a seat in Louisiana. You're going to get 3 seats in Florida. So you asked me the second part. I could go a lot longer. I won't. we're going to hold the majority. The first part was, what's the message? And I got to tell you, I've been doing this for years, and you're a communications expert. I am not. I just play the part every day. People say to me when I travel across the country, what's your message? And it's like, you don't get it. The House doesn't drive the national message. We have 435 pieces of geography. Each one has unique demographics. We've got to have a candidate that looks and sounds like that district. We've got to have a message. What is the message? I mean, a few years ago, we won a seat we were never supposed to win in Oklahoma City based on what, Sean? Energy jobs. Energy is a big deal in Oklahoma City. We won 2 seats in South Florida based on socialism. There just happen to be a lot of people who live there who know what socialism is and how bad it is firsthand. Now, we can be impacted by the national message driven by the White House, driven by our statewide candidates, the U.S. Senate candidates, etc. There's no question. But if you have the right incumbent or the right candidate that understands how they have to work the district, you can overcome a bunch of that, especially when you're talking about North Carolina's 1st congressional district is now a Trump plus 10. Toledo, Ohio is Ohio 9th congressional district is a Trump plus 10.6. I mean, you can just look at these seats that, again, if the vast majority of the people in this country who don't wear a partisan jersey every day like we do, wake up after Labor Day and they do that emotional assessment that Americans have always done, which is, do I feel better about my economic situation today than I did when this started? And do I see a bright future in my future? They'd usually vote for more of what they have. I like our chances in that scenario. If they don't feel that way, then guess what? They do what they did in 2024 when 77 million people voted for Donald Trump. And I'm going to guarantee you there's a group of them that Donald Trump was not their favorite candidate, but they were looking at the other side saying, I can't have another 4 years of this. And I know that Donald J. Trump got this thing working the last time. I want that. All right. I believe that's going to be in our favor come September.
I need a little of that kind of Emmer enthusiasm. That's what I needed to get me going on a Friday. All right, go get those votes, Majority Whip Tom Emmer. Thanks for everything you're doing to keep the agenda moving forward and fighting for Donald Trump America First agenda. We'll check with you soon.
Thanks, Sean.
You bet. All right, an absolutely fascinating conversation. You heard it right there. This is a guy who counts votes and then who counts, the districts. I've said this before. Just remember, these guys who love to pontificate about races and whatever, I'm not always so sure. Remember, there are people who actually do this race by race and count the majority. Tom Emmer, this is what he does. So, anyway, with all that said, we got a lot more to break down going on. I mean, it is unbelievable because I do want to you wouldn't believe there's a bill in New York. I'm going to ask Dave Rubin about this. There's a bill that's sitting on the governor's desk right now, not some random hypothetical proposal. An actual bill ready for the governor's signature that will change the definition of mother and father. Unbelievable. Let's bring in Dave Rubin to get his take on it. Dave. All right, Dave, this New York law that I've been talking about, it's one thing to talk about crazy stuff that Democrats are doing. And when I first heard this report about what's going on in New York, I thought, okay, this is just something to get clickbait. But check this out. The New York State Assembly, the House of Representatives, and the State Senate have actually sent a piece of legislation to the governor. It's on Kathy Hochul's desk to replace the word mother with gestating parent. And father will now be legally known as non-gestating parent. Okay, I'm sorry. I mean, I know sometimes we joke about how the Dems have lost their minds. But the idea that New York State is taking the word mother and father out of the lexicon is a bridge that I thought we would joke about but never actually cross.
Sean, as you know, I'm a student of history. We are coming up on our 250th anniversary of this great country, and I've been thinking about the founders a lot. And when I hear stories like this, I must think, what would they think? And what is it that you think they would think about a story like this? I mean, these guys were trying to free us from tyranny. They were trying to create a situation that would allow us to have our God-given rights defended by the documents that they were writing. And 250 years later, on top of the fact that we've got communists and jihadists and socialists running around the streets, and this mayor of New York City who is a little combination of all of that, that they're quite literally trying to erase women, the very same people who were telling us, they can't tell us what a woman is. Now they want to erase women. And also we have to respect all women. It's all very confusing. But there's no there. There's no end. There's no bottom to this pit. Anything crazy that they can do to distract people while they steal their money, while they raise their taxes, while they cause urban mayhem, they will do. And New York is just right in the center of that lunacy right now.
Didn't want to interrupt you, but it's now going to be known as the founding non-gestating people. No more.
You were sitting. How did I not get that? You were sitting on that the entire time. I could tell you were so intently, blankly staring at me. I was like, something must be going on in there.
Well, because because as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, this is so ridiculous. But it's funny because after
founding
the Biden
fathers, how did I not get the
founding
joke?
non-gestating people. But the thing that's so funny, Dave, is there are days in which I thought the Democrats learned their lesson during Biden and okay, we went too far. And one example right now is this is Pride Month. And I got a list the other day. There's a ton of companies, MasterCard, they were a former platinum sponsor of NYC Pride. They're not renewing their corporate sponsorship. PepsiCo dropped out of NYC Pride sponsorship. Nissan, Citi, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Anheuser-Busch withdrew from the San Francisco Pride, which I'm sure is like the Mac Daddy of all Pride months. Comcast withdrew. Diageo, Booz Allen Hamilton, Lowe's, Target. You remember you couldn't walk into a Target without seeing trans this, trans that. Shifted to a silent partner status, which I think is sort of like the weakest Weasley thing you could possibly be.
The don't ask, don't tell of partners.
Right. I'm with you, but just not like publicly. I remember, you know what that is? That's kind of like when I left the Trump administration. People were like, we'd love you to come speak, but could you come in the back door so that no one actually sees you? But I felt like we had one aspect of we're just getting back to like teaching arithmetic and not going woke on stuff. And then the Dems go and do this in New York.
Yeah, well, look, I would say the corporate abandonment of the LGBTQI, whatever you want to call it.
Plus.
Plus, two-spirit, whatever, is probably good because what it's showing is, well, first off, gay people buy Coca-Cola and straight people buy Coca-Cola. Actually, gays buy a little bit less because the sugar's not great for you. And if you want to have six-pack abs, you get my point. It does not all of these pandering little nothingness. It's just nothing. Back in the day when the gays were first marching in New York City, it was really around attaining equality. And equality is something that's just to fight for. And then once equality was attained, it really shifted more to this idea of pride. And pride, well, you should have pride, but pride should have nothing to do with your sexuality. I mean, pride, you should be proud of your work. You should be proud of your family. You should be proud of the things that you accomplish in your life. That's what real pride is. Pride is not, you shouldn't be any more proud of your sexuality as a gay person than you should be proud of your sexuality as a straight person. It's one facet of who you are. So I think it's a good sign to see some of these corporations leaving because that doesn't mean that they're anti-gay. It means that this unnecessary thing that has been pushed upon us, this woke thing, is sort of being removed from the cultural equation at the moment. And I think that's net good.
I agree with you. I don't understand why I wouldn't want, like, even as a straight guy, like, I don't know why we get out. It's like, do what you want. I'm a pretty laissez-faire, like, kind of guy. Like, do what you want to do. But I also don't know why I need to see it in a store or in a government. And where I live in Alexandria, Virginia, we've painted the crosswalks with the trans flag. And I'm like, does that help me cross the street? Like, why are we I don't know, but I wouldn't want like a straight flag or whatever. I mean, like, why can't we just have a crosswalk? It doesn't need
Sean, if you were to walk across that gay flag in Alexandria backwards, you would turn gay for 24 hours.
I heard that. I did hear that. I'm not going to try it, but I may trick somebody into doing that. But all that being said, I just talked to, right before you came on, Tom Emmer, the majority whip. And I asked him, because he beyond being the whip and he's got to get the votes and whatever, like what's on the agenda? And he said, we got to pass the appropriations bills and all that kind of stuff. And then I said, are we going to keep the majority? But I said, give me like basically the elevator pitch. And I am a believer that if we on the right did nothing, just knowing what the Dem agenda is, and I just highlighted what the New York folks are doing. I live in Virginia. They're even crazier. But like, do you think that people are motivated right now, like to go out there and say, we've got to keep this majority? I don't get the sense they are.
Wait, was the Republican whip, that wasn't a gay joke? See, I can do it too. I can do it too. Okay,
oh,
okay.
There you go. There you go, Dave Rubin.
I handed you one. You handed me one. We're playing just light catch here. That's what we're doing.
All right. I'm leaving it. I'm like, no more. I just saw the hand gesture. I'm like, that's it. No more.
We'll play it straight, so to speak, from here. Look, I'm completely with you on this. And when I had you on my show a couple of days ago, I was really glad to hear you say that, because I think the Republicans don't have to do much. I think there's some messaging that needs to be cleaned up. I think there needs to be a sort of clean ending or resolution of the Iran situation. Gas prices for sure will go down before the midterms one way or another. But in essence, the Democrats are just running on such crazy things everywhere, and also running such extraordinarily out of their mind candidates. I mean, look what's going on with Plattner over the last couple of days, and they're trying to figure out how much cover they have to run for the guy that claims he didn't know he had a Nazi tattoo on his chest for 20 years. Hold on, in defense,
lots of people have Nazi tattoos that don't know it. And also, I mean, you can honestly think about this. If you didn't know better, you could go to a bar, randomly get one for 18 years and not know. It's very possible.
I'm trying to come up with some kind of gay reference here too, but it's failing me.
You're out of it.
But that's the point. That's the point, Sean. They're asking us to believe things that are completely unbelievable, which is completely consistent with everything else that they do. So, okay, I think actually something good did happen over the last few days, which is that by the LA election going to a runoff, it extends our attention on what has happened to Los Angeles. That's good, because if you look at Los Angeles, which is Democrat run for decades, you see what the actual disaster is, and the homelessness and the drugs and all of those things, and the amount of people that are fleeing and everything else. So it's good to have attention on, say, the race of LA, regardless of how it turns out. That will work well for Republicans as we get closer to the midterms. So you're right. Republicans kind of, look, we want some economic indicators that are good, which I think we're getting. And the big, beautiful bill has only been operating for, barely 6 months at this point. The trade deals are still coming in. So we want to see some good indicators on that. Most people would like some resolution of the Iran situation. And then it's like maybe Trump gets back to putting a little more emphasis on deportations, some of the things he was really voted in on doing. But as you and I discussed the other day, some of it, it's like, all right, if the Republicans can keep the Senate, which I know you're bullish on, and if they can maintain the House, which I think you're at least you and I are a little more bullish than most people, it's like, then he can run unchained for 2 years. And I think we'll just see so many great things. So I hope, the last thing you want to do is tell people that it's in the bag, because then they don't get out there, and I certainly don't think it's anywhere close to that. But I think if the Democrats just keep running on what they're running on, high taxes, high crime, urban dismay, boys or girls, birthing, whatever you just said, we'll be okay.
So I think about you as a great example of why I'm not as bullish on LA. You up and left. You had a great business. You had you were very established in that LA, California, and you were like, enough's enough. And I think a lot of people were like Dave Rubin and said, whether it's Texas or Florida or Montana, said, I'm out. In fact, there's a chart out that Axios had. Fastest population declines in California in cities of 50,000 or more. Union City down 6.9. Pleasanton or something down 6.6, San Leonardo down 6.2, Huntington Park 6.1. Yep. I mean, you get the drift. I kind of feel like the people who were really pissed off said, I'm out of California. And I get it. I think Spencer Pratt, he's got a great message, which is, before I do anything else, I got to get the junkie in your front yard throwing trash in it out before you care about, X, Y, and Z. I just don't know, like, at some point, if you're okay with that, I don't know that there's any fixing you, right? I mean,
Yeah, because well, the thing is, as you know, things get bad slowly usually, so people don't even realize that they are bad. And I see a lot of that when I go back to LA every now and again. People are like, "Oh, well, it's not that bad," or people in New York will be like, "Oh, I don't use the subway anymore, but during the day it's fine," or "I don't go out at night anymore." Like you almost don't even realize you're in this weird hostage situation. But I think the line that Spencer has used that is really, really effective is he just says, "Look around." That I'm the look around candidate. Just look around and tell me what you see. And I would welcome anybody, including Jimmy Kimmel, who has Pratt derangement syndrome. His studio's on Hollywood Boulevard. I was there a couple weeks ago. Walk outside and tell me what's going on there. You'll see drug addicts. You'll see homeless people everywhere. You'll see closed stores everywhere. Ironically, Jimmy Kimmel, you have security guards at your door, and you have to show an ID to be an audience member at your show while you're railing against the guy who's trying to clean it up. So I think the look around thing is good. And then another version of that is if you don't care about politics, just show me where people leave and where do they come to. And since COVID, 2.3 million people have come to Florida, and over 1 million people have fled California, and over 1 million people have fled New York. That tells you something. So you may not, okay, fine, this tax policy, that policy here, whatever. Where are they going? Where are they coming to? It's where are they fleeing from and where are they coming to? That's the important thing, because that shows you what reality is.
Yeah, I want to get to your tour, because I think that's. But before I do that, this is a time when I feel like we on the right who are extolling that message. Like, hey guys, we've got a plan. We're making cities safer, more prosperous, et cetera. And the places that they run are, because I think the one thing you left out of your description of Hollywood Boulevard is it stinks. I mean, it's either you smell like
literally smells. Yeah,
I know
yeah.
it's either like pee or pot. I've walked out and it's gross. And so I think that's another thing. But like at a time when we should be unified. Since the death of Charlie Kirk, we're starting to fracture, where you've got Tucker and Megyn and Candace and people like, I don't know if it's an attempt to grow an audience, if it's a legitimate policy discussion, but a lot of these folks. What do you think?
Well, it's definitely not a legitimate policy discussion. Look, I think it's different with each one of them. I don't run around calling people anti-Semites and Jew haters. However, Tucker at this point now qualifies as an anti-Semite and a Jew hater. His endless obsession with not just Israel, but Jews specifically. I don't know why he's doing it. Is it just purely that if you talk about the Jews, I'm not allowed to talk about the Jews. I'm also going to talk about the Jews all day, and I'm going to get a ton of clicks to do it, and I'll make a lot of money. There's a little gimmick in that. I think Megyn, it's a little bit of that. Candace, who the hell knows what's going on in her brain? But to your broader point, it's like, guys, unless what you want is Democrats to not only have the House and the Senate come midterms, but to have the presidency come 2028, then everyone calm down. Look, you don't have to be on board Trump's position on the Iran war. You really don't. But if you look at the other things that Trump has done, notably closing the border, more importantly than anything else, how can you be against this guy? Especially, this isn't like, oh, we're going to defeat Trumpism and MAGA and we're going to get Bill Clinton. We're going to have this average, sometimes pretty decent Democrat. You're going to end up with a far left lunatic. I would posit that that's what Tucker wants. He actually, I think, will be a Democrat within the next 2 years. He's, I think, going down that path. What puts him on the right anymore? Every time he has someone on the right on his show, he tries to destroy them, Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, etc. Every time he has someone on the left, Cenk Uygur, any one of these far lefties, he glazes them. So he's showing his cards already. Also, he has a strange obsession, a fetishization, I would say, with Islam at this point, which is also a problem. But it's hard to know. I would just say for anyone watching them, okay, you might agree with some of their positions, or you might not be happy with Trump on the war, which again, it's not a forever war. This thing is going to wrap up whether you liked it or didn't like it. Trump is anti-war, but sometimes you have to fight to not have wars. Strength through, you get peace through strength, right? But if that's your main issue, I would say you can criticize Trump all day on it, but you gotta put it aside and understand what the grander fight is. And the grander fight is against radical leftism and communism, which is now at our doorstep. So be careful, be careful.
I agree. I mean,
you
can be critical of some of the actions, but at the end of the day, recognize the alternative is horrible. That being said, what's the alternative leads me to the bigger point here. You're doing this Florida Man tour. Do you think that Ron DeSantis is the guy after Trump. I mean, I've been very clear. I think J.D. Vance is the guy. Do you want to see a primary? Do you want to see Ron DeSantis? How do you see this unfolding after Trump?
Well, put aside what I want for a second. I mean, I think Trump will want a contested primary. I just have a feeling Trump's going to do like a Celebrity Apprentice kind of thing. And he'll say, hey, JD's been great, but, I like Rubio too. And I don't know, Hegseth's pretty good. And, that DeSantis guy in Florida is not bad. And I think he's going to want a spectacular show and feel like a kingmaker. Not that he just quietly handed it off to JD. So that's what I suspect will happen. Look, if you told me today, Marco Rubio is going to be the nominee in 28, I'd be thrilled. If you told me today that JD is going to be the nominee in 28, I'd be perfectly happy. If you told me that it was Ron DeSantis, I'd be thrilled too. All of these guys, I have different feelings about all of them, but they're all obviously competent and could go about the business of the presidency and extend Trump's legacy. That's in stark contrast to what's going on the other side. So, DeSantis is an interesting spot because, he's out of a job in the not too distant future, and then he'll have to figure out what to do for 2 years. Maybe he jumps in on the administration. I think that'll largely depend what happens with the midterms, because if Trump is feeling good and strong, then you might want to be part of that. If the midterms go the other way and Trump's lame duck, then no one's going to want that headache. Maybe DeSantis wants to go private sector for a little bit. But, I judge politicians on what they actually accomplish. And in my lifetime, outside of Donald Trump accomplishing huge bumper sticker things and fully changing the culture and direction of the country and fighting off the worst forces, in terms of who gets things done at a functional level, it's Ron DeSantis by far. Even just this week, they're pushing forward with this property tax reduction. It's not going to be a complete elimination. It's going to be tiered, but we're going to put money back in people's pockets. Why, in effect, if you own a house, are you paying rent to the government every year, especially in a state that has all this new income? So he's just doing everything he can to keep this place strong. And whoever comes after him, I just want them to continue that legacy.
Okay. Real quick, when you always go off the grid, when do you go off the grid this year?
August. I will be gone from August 1st until I think it's September 2nd this year, day after Labor Day. Day after Labor Day.
No concerns about that you're going to miss something on the midterms?
No, this will be my 10th year doing it, I think. And of course, I'm going to miss some stuff. Things happen. I missed the Afghanistan withdrawal one year. I missed when Biden picked Kamala one year. I missed some Republican debates one year. But that's why I do it, because you know what? 30 days off the hamster wheel and the world is still here, and it gives me a chance. Sean, we're just hit and inundated with information and politics and the infighting and what you and I get to see, the sausage making part of it. And for me, I get to purge that once a year. 1 out of 12 months, I get to purge that. I come back with fresh eyes and renewed energy and vigor to get back into all of it. And I think it's why one of the reasons that I haven't gone crazy. You mentioned a couple people that I think have really gone off the rails over the last little bit. If you're in politics forever and you never get out of that lane, I could see why it would make you crazy. It's the buffer for me it's the force field, I would say, to not go completely bananas.
Good for you. I think I might do 30 minutes off the grid. I'll start slow. Dave Rubin,
for the day. I'll drop a pin somewhere. Oh no, I can't drop a pin. I don't have a phone. Well, I'll carry a pigeon or something.
Well, listen, I'm going to do 30 minutes this year, and then I'll do 40 minutes next year. I'll get there. Dave Rubin, have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Good to see you, Sean.
Good to see you. All right, guys, we've got a great week headed your way next week. Claudia Tenney, the congresswoman from New York, is here. And I'm just going to tell you this right now. I got some surprises up my sleeve, some big asks out to some big guests that you'll see nowhere else. I'm just saying, I'm working on some stuff. I'm working on some things. I appreciate you being with us. I got a brand new column out at SeanSpicer.com. Looking forward to a great weekend. We'll see you back here Monday. Thanks for being here. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.